We are truly in the midst of a legend here tonight at Salem Memorial Stadium. He's laughing, but I'm definitely not. You may know him as former manager for teams like Chicago White Sox, Oakland A's, and St. Louis Cardinals, Baseball Hall of Famer himself. Now moving into a new role with the Boston Red Sox, Mr. Tony La Russa here with us today. Quite the resume of a career. How excited are you to continue this career in a place like Boston as the assistant to the director of baseball operations?
That's a great question because I signed out of high school and I've never worked a day in my life. I've just been involved doing something that I love. And not being on the field, but still caring about winning and losing, that's what happens when you're upstairs. And I had a chance to work. Dave Dombrowski and I go way back to our White Sox days, and the Red Sox are not just a great organization, but I love the passion of the Red Sox fans. So I'm having the time of my life, and we're off to a good start.
Absolutely. And talking about that relationship with Dave, how did that lead to this opportunity here in Boston for you?
Well, not curiously, but coincidentally, we got to know each other in 1979. He was an farm director, and I was AAA manager. And then we got together still when I was with the White Sox. In '86, we both got fired the same year. So for 30 years after that, when he went his way, I went mine. We always stayed friends, and we would pull for each other's clubs. And we thought maybe someday we'll get together. And this was the year because Dave knew he was going to hire this very special young man named Alex Cora, and he thought that somewhere, somehow, over the season, spring of the season, that there may be something that Alex could ask, and I could give him the benefit of my experience.
Definitely. You stole my next question from me. Obviously, it's Alex's first year as manager. In all of your years in this industry, dealing with this sport, what advice would you give him that maybe you wish someone would have given you your first year as a manager?
The best one has to do with decision making. The other one that's really important is that nowadays, if you don't create relationships with your players, I don't care how smart you are, you're not going to, because they won't play for you. And Alex has got this very engaging, magnetic kind of personality. So the best one I could give him, when the game starts and you're the one that has to pull the trigger on decisions, you trust your gut, you don't cover your butt. Because in the major leagues, with so much attention, sometimes you see managers, they'll want to do this, but they think, oh, I want to get second-guessed or criticized. Don't give in to that.
Going into relationships with fans, in a place like Boston that's such a baseball crazed city, how would you compare that area with a place like Chicago and Oakland?
Chicago was similar. I mean, I got there as a young man, and White Sox fans and they're Cubs fans. They're very passionate. So I got my first experiences was a good one because they're very demanding and they booed you. Go to Oakland, California is too cool for school. So I was there 10 years and we had a good team, but people paid attention, but they had a lot of other things in their life. Going to St. Louis now, that's like the Boston. It's a religion. Their baseball team is everything, and I actually like that because you feel the expectations, and that helps motivate your ball club to not let them down.
Known as a stats guy, very passionate about that. How have you seen stats and analytics maybe change the way the game's played now and mold it into the game that it is today?
Well, the best question you could ask is that one because there's been an explosion of measures, metrics, and the application. They've gotten a lot of responsibility in our game. It's a wonderful tool. It's a very important tool. It's gone too far in some of the ways that they are involved with strategy and whether it's lineup making or handling pitching. So I think what you're going to find is at some point we're going to understand the value of analytics and where it can help the most, but you should never disrespect the people like scouts, player development, manager and coaches. The game is so dynamic once you start to play that you can't orchestrate. You can't give a printout that says this is what's going to happen. So I'm very excited about it, but you got to put a restraint on it sometimes.
In your career, you've covered all sides of the spectrum, player, manager, executive. How does that give you maybe an appreciation for how tough scouting and development can be in this day and age?
You're doing really good because that's another great question. Because when you're in uniform, you have an understanding and a respect. But until you actually are involved, like I have been the last 4 or 5 years, scouting has got to be the toughest job around. because you're watching these young kids out of high school, you're watching these college guys. There's so much at stake with the draft choices and the money that you have to pay that you're forecasting what they're going to be. There's a lot of pressure. It's really difficult, and I can't tell you how much I appreciate how hard they work. And then you get into the front office, and everybody's working hard. You go upstairs once the game starts, and you're helpless. And you really can't do anything but trust the guys in uniform. So it's actually easier in uniform than it is upstairs in front office or being a scout.
Well, that's all for the questions. I appreciate your time, Mr. LaRussa. He
Tony.
said call him Tony. I'll call you Tony. Do I get a reward? Do I get to keep one of these baseballs?
See, you weren't even born when I was starting, but I was there, but you can have it if you want to.
Perfect. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I appreciate your time.